Story 1. The loyalty test that broke us. I never thought I'd be in this position. Confused, angry, feeling like a fool. But here I am, questioning everything I believed about my marriage. My name? Let's just say you can call me Clueless, capital C, bold, italicized, and underlined. I'm 23, married to Amy, who's 22. We tied the knot 3 months ago, and while she's still in college, I've been working full-time, providing for us. It's not always easy, but I make it work. I cover our rent, utilities, groceries, everything. Amy works part-time at a coffee shop, just enough to have some pocket money. I even plan to pay off her student loans, sacrificing some of my own financial goals to make sure she's not buried in debt. Life seems stable. At least until last week. I'd just gotten promoted and had to travel for a week of training at our corporate headquarters. Amy wanted to come, but I crunched the numbers and told her we couldn't afford it. We have an emergency fund, sure, but this wasn't an emergency. She wasn't happy, but she let it go. At least that's what I thought. Monday was smooth sailing. I made some good connections at work, called Amy twice a day like a good husband, and reassured her I'd be home soon. But then Wednesday came, and that's when things got weird. I was at the hotel's breakfast buffet when a woman approached me, asking to sit at my table. I glanced around. Every table was full, so I told her I didn't mind. I finished eating, got up to leave, and she playfully said, "Leaving already?" I laughed it off and told her I had to get to work. She was attractive, no doubt about it, blonde, a little older than me, well-dressed. But I didn't think much of it. Then Thursday morning rolled around, and there she was again. This time there were empty tables, but she sat with me anyway. "You ran off yesterday before I could get your name," she said with a smirk. I felt uncomfortable. I'm married. I don't need to entertain random women at breakfast. So I got up and left. That afternoon she showed up again, this time in the elevator. "Well, look who it is," she grinned. Then she asked me to grab a drink with her. I held up my left hand, flashed my wedding ring, and politely declined. It didn't stop there. Friday morning I skipped the hotel breakfast and grabbed coffee at a self-service bar. Guess who showed up? Again. "It would have been nice to have a conversation with my drink last night," she said, still smiling. At this point I'd had enough. I'm married. I don't want to spend time with another woman. Please leave me alone. That night, I went to a sports bar to enjoy my last evening in town, treat myself to a steak and watch the game. Anne, who sits down next to me, looking drop-dead gorgeous in a short dress. I told her firmly to leave me alone. She ignored me, ordered a drink, and excused herself. That was my chance. I grabbed my wallet, threw down some cash, and bolted, leaving my steak untouched. Furious, I went back to my hotel, ate a sad burger, and called Amy before bed. I told her about the whole ordeal. She apologized, said she'd cook me a big meal when I got home. I went to bed angry, mostly at myself for not standing my ground harder. Then I got home Saturday morning. Amy greeted me with hugs and kisses. Before I could even unpack, she dragged me into the bedroom. Honeymoon phase, right? I wasn't about to complain. Afterwards, we lay there cuddling, just enjoying being back together. And then she ruined it. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, kissing me. "You passed the test." "What test?" She giggled. "Susan, you passed." My heart stopped. I rolled away, propped myself up on my elbows, and stared at her. "What do you mean?" She laughed, looking way too pleased with herself. "I set it up. Susan was there because I asked her to be." I shot up in bed. "Wait, what?" Amy, still grinning, explained that she and her friend Jessica had come up with the idea. Jessica had planted the idea in her head. What if I got approached by a beautiful woman while I was away? Would I stay loyal? So they recruited Susan, Jessica's older sister, and flew her out to my hotel to put me to the test. I was livid. "You paid for her trip? With what money?" Amy went silent. I pushed further. "How much did you spend?" More silence. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my wallet, and stormed out. She started crying, insisting it wasn't her fault, that it was just a test, that I passed so I should be happy. But all I saw was betrayal. Outside, I called my coworker Jacob. He told me to come over. When I got there, I told him everything. The guys at his place ripped into me. "She played you, man. You married too young. Why are your finances even combined?" One of them introduced me to something called a crap test. Apparently, some women do this kind of thing to test their partners. I felt sick. The reality sank in. Amy had lied to me, spent our money, depleted our emergency fund, and let some stranger harass me just to prove something to herself. I ignored Amy's calls. Then my parents' calls. Then hers. I shut my phone off. I needed space. Jacob told me I could crash at his place for a few days. I needed time to figure this out. But here's what I do know. Amy has to repay every single dollar she spent before she goes back to school. We're getting separate bank accounts. No more student loans on my dime, she pays for them herself. She's officially off my credit card. Jessica and Susan are out of her life, forever. I finally texted her and both our parents saying I'd come by in the morning to talk. Until then, I wanted everyone to leave me alone. I love my wife. But this has shaken me to my core. Can we even come back from this? Can I ever trust her again? Or was this marriage doomed from the start? I don't know. But I do know that I won't let myself be played like this again. Story 2. The weight of a choice. I, 29F, am in a terrible situation and need some outside perspective. Saying no could completely upend my family, but saying yes feels like a betrayal of myself. I'm under immense pressure to donate a kidney to my estranged mother, 52F, who I haven't had a real relationship with in years. We found out last month that my mom's kidneys are failing. She needs to start dialysis, but doctors say a transplant is the best option for her long-term health. Out of her 2 children, I'm a perfect match while my brother Adam is not. The hospital ran tests on both of us and the results confirmed it. If she gets a kidney from anyone in the family, it has to be me. The pressure to donate is overwhelming. Everyone keeps saying this is a chance to heal our family and make amends. Adam has been pleading with me to do it, but he doesn't understand. I'm not the one who left. I never wanted or needed to fix anything because I wasn't the one who broke it. My mother chose drugs over us and now, years later, I'm supposed to save her? Feels like a cruel joke. Adam barely remembers what she put us through, but I do. I remember everything. My dad, 54M, isn't pushing me directly, but I can see the hope in his eyes. He says he'll support whatever decision I make, but deep down, I know he wants me to go through with it. He's holding on to some fantasy that this will bring our family back together. Makes me sick. He wants his wife back. Adam wants the mother he never really had, but what do I get? I feel like I'm being asked to sacrifice myself so everyone else can feel better. My mom hasn't outright asked me for my kidney, but every time we're in the same room, I can feel the question hanging between us. It's suffocating. Part of me wants to scream at her. Where was all this concern for me when I was raising her child? And yet, another part of me feels conflicted. The idea that her life is quite literally in my hands is a strange, unsettling power to have. I know this might sound bitter, but I'm not some vengeful person holding a grudge for the sake of it. This isn't about getting back at her. It's about self-preservation. For context, my mother walked out on us 16 years ago. I was 13, Adam was 5. She disappeared one day, completely lost in her addiction. My dad did everything he could, but he had to work insane hours just to put food on the table. He wasn't around much, which meant I had to step up. At 13 years old, I was cooking meals, helping Adam with his homework, and trying to explain why our mom was gone. I missed out on my childhood because I was too busy raising my little brother. I watched other kids get to be normal while I was stretching a box of mac and cheese into 2 meals. I learned how to lie to Adam about why we couldn't afford things, how to smile through my own tears so he wouldn't feel scared. Dad did his best, but back then, it felt like both of my parents had abandoned me. As I got older, the resentment grew. Adam got to be a regular kid, playing sports, hanging out with friends, while I was forced to be an adult before I was ready. It created a distance between us that never really went away. He still sees our mom through rose-colored glasses because he was too young to remember the worst of it. I, on the other hand, remember everything. By my late teens and early 20s, I was a mess. I pushed people away, made reckless decisions, and tried to drown my pain in parties and bad choices. It took years of therapy to start healing. Things only really stabilized when I met my husband, 31M, who has been patient and understanding through all of it. Even with him, my past traumas surfaced. When he first brought up starting a family, I panicked. The idea of being responsible for a child again brought back all the old fears. It took 2 years of hard work for me to finally feel ready. We've been trying for a baby for 6 months now. And then, right in the middle of all of this, my mother suddenly came back. She just showed up at my dad's house one morning, looking lost and desperate. No warning, no explanation, just there like she'd never left. My dad didn't hesitate. He let her in and immediately called Adam and me over for a family meeting. When I saw her, she was a stranger to me. She said she was clean and wanted to make things right. Adam was on board instantly, eager to reconnect. But I couldn't believe how easily he accepted her back. Of course, it was easier for him. He never really knew the nightmare she put us through. My dad, ever the optimist, kept urging me to give her a chance. It infuriated me. He wanted so badly to believe she was the woman he used to love. But I saw things clearly. I kept my distance while they played happy family. And now, just a few months later, I'm being asked to save her life. I don't know what to do. If I say no, my family will never forgive me. Adam will resent me, my dad will be disappointed, and I'll be seen as the villain. But if I say yes, I feel like I'm betraying myself. Giving her my kidney won't change the past. It won't give me back my childhood. It won't undo everything she put me through. I don't know how to make peace with this choice. Moving back in with my dad has only made things more complicated. Over the last few months, my mother has been trying to repair her relationships with us. She stayed clean, found a job, and expressed remorse for everything she did. But for me, it's too little, too late. I've been civil, but I can't see her as my mother anymore. Meanwhile, my brother Adam has fully embraced her return. He constantly talks about their time together, how amazing it is to have a mother again, and it makes me want to scream. It's like he's forgotten everything I did for him, all that we went through. Then came the diagnosis. I tried to stay focused on my life and not get caught up in it, but Adam was in tears, my dad was devastated, and I just wanted to be anywhere but that hospital room. Adam was eager to be a donor as soon as the doctors explained how grueling dialysis would be and how long the transplant waitlist was. I respected his choice, but when he dragged me into the testing, I never imagined I would be a match. When the results came back, I couldn't even sit there and process it. I just walked straight out of the hospital. Why should I sign away a piece of myself for the woman who abandoned me? My dad and Adam think I'm being heartless, that I refuse to forgive. Instead of supporting me, they've turned all their attention to my mother and left me feeling like the villain. My husband Josh is my only real support right now, but I can see the stress this is causing him. He's worried about the surgery's risks, how it could impact our plans for a baby, and how it might undo years of therapy and progress. He reminds me that I've fought hard for the life I have now, and he doesn't want anything to set me back. Then, to make everything even worse, my aunt, my mother's sister, called me last night and dropped a bombshell. She never forgave my mother for abandoning us either. Turns out, my mom didn't just leave because of drugs. She was also having an affair with a married man and got pregnant. She left us to start over with that child, using her addiction as a cover story. I don't even know where that kid is or if they know about me and Adam. And now, after everything, she's back? Acting like she wants to fix things? This revelation shattered me. I've been lying awake at night, replaying my entire childhood in my head, wondering if I missed the signs. I think about every sacrifice I made, all the years I spent being Adam's parent, and how that compares to the truth I now know. Adam has no idea about any of this. He keeps pushing me to donate, talking about family duty and how this could heal our family, but all I can think about is how he got to have a childhood while I was forced to grow up too soon. Dad doesn't know either. He's caught up in this dream of rebuilding our family, and I don't have the heart to tell him the truth. The idea of undergoing major surgery for someone who abandoned me twice is overwhelming. I think about the risks, how it could affect my future health, my chances of having a baby. I've already sacrificed so much. My childhood, my peace of mind, my sense of security. Giving up a piece of my body seems like too much. But saying no makes me the villain. So what do I do? Update 1. I never thought this post would get so much attention, but here we are. I appreciate everyone who has shared their thoughts. Reading through your comments has given me a lot to think about. Some of you have urged me to forgive and move on, but that's easier said than done. My mother didn't just hurt me for a day, a week, or a year. Her choices shaped my entire life. I lost my childhood, my safety, my faith in the people who were supposed to protect me. That's not something a few apologies and tears can fix. And to everyone saying, but she's your mother. Biology alone doesn't inspire love or loyalty. Yes, she gave birth to me, but I was the one who had to grow up too soon, who had to step up when she didn't. When she was high and leaving her children to fend for themselves, where was this family is everything mindset? Some of you have suggested therapy, and we tried that when she first came back. It didn't magically fix everything. My mother cried and said all the right things, but it didn't erase the years of abandonment. And then there's the reality of the surgery itself. Many of you pointed out the risks, both immediate and long-term. What if this affects my ability to have children? What if I need a kidney in the future? Am I really supposed to put my health, my future, on the line for someone who never thought twice about leaving me? Josh reminded me last night that I don't owe anyone anything, not even my mother. And for the first time in my life, I think I believe him. The pressure from my family hasn't let up, though. Adam has been flooding my phone with texts, shifting from anger to guilt-tripping. He even said if I let our mother die, I'd be no better than she was when she left us. That one hurt. A lot. Dad has been more subdued, but I can tell he's disappointed. And then there's my mother. She finally worked up the courage to call me directly. I let it go to voicemail. She was crying, saying she's scared of dying and that she knows she doesn't deserve my help. But all I could think about was how many nights I spent scared and alone because of her choices. And then there's the secret. I still haven't told anyone about my mom's affair or the child she had. Every time I consider it, I picture Dad's face, how it would crush Adam's newfound bond with her. But keeping this to myself is tearing me apart. I probably sound cold-hearted in this update, but I'm exhausted. I'm tired of being the one who always has to be strong, to sacrifice. I want to put myself first for once. And if that makes me the villain in everyone's eyes, then so be it. Update 2. It's only been 2 days, but things have escalated. Adam has been texting non-stop, but when that wasn't enough, he decided to show up at my house unannounced while I was at work. Josh was home finishing up some work when Adam barged in, yelling about how Mom's condition was getting worse, how the doctor said time was running out, and how he would drag me to the hospital himself if necessary. Josh tried to calm him down, telling him that forcing me into this wasn't the way to handle things. But Adam wasn't having it. He accused Josh of turning me against our family, of poisoning me against Mom. Things got heated and Adam actually took a swing at Josh. Thankfully, Josh dodged it and had to physically restrain Adam to stop him from lashing out. When I got home, Josh told me everything. I was furious. Not just at Adam, but at the entire situation. I'm done being bullied into giving up a part of myself. I don't know what happens next, but I do know one thing. I'm standing my ground. As I stepped into my apartment, I saw the aftermath of Ezra's outburst. The living room was in chaos, furniture overturned, shattered glass on the floor, and my husband nursing a bruise on his jaw. The police had just left, but the damage was already done. The brother I had raised, the one I had sacrificed everything for, had become a stranger, an angry, violent stranger. I had no idea who he was anymore. Still shaken, I tried to call Ezra, hoping to talk some sense into him. But instead of the little brother I had once known, I was met with pure fury. He screamed at me, called me every name in the book, accused me of being selfish and heartless. And then he said the words that cut me deeper than anything else. I will never forgive you if Mom dies because of you. You'll be dead to me just like you're letting her die. I froze, unable to breathe. My worst fear had come true. He had chosen her over me. The brother I had fought for, protected, and practically raised had turned against me in an instant. I collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably, unable to process it all. My husband held me through it, but I could see the pain in his eyes too. This situation was tearing us apart. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, my father called the next morning. Ezra had told him some twisted version of events, making it sound like I had set my husband on him and was causing all this conflict. My father, in his frustration, told me that none of this would be happening if I would just stop being stubborn and agree to the kidney donation. I snapped. For the first time in my life, I let everything spill out. The truth about my mother's affair, the child she had given away, and the fact that she hadn't just left us because of drugs, but because she had chosen a new life over us. I told my father how I had carried this secret alone, even now, still protecting her. And then I told him the hardest truth of all, that I had been furious with him my entire life for not being there when I needed him most. Silence stretched on the other end of the line. Then I heard something I had only witnessed twice before in my life, my father breaking down in tears. He kept apologizing over and over, saying he hadn't known, that he should have been there more. A part of me felt awful for hurting him, but another part of me finally felt relief. At last, someone else was carrying even a fraction of the weight I had borne my whole life. Ezra bombarded me with texts after that. Dad had called him and told him everything. Suddenly, his entire attitude changed. He was apologetic, remorseful. He said he hadn't understood, begged me to forgive him. But I wasn't sure I could. The things he had said, the way he had acted, I couldn't just erase that. Mom, too, had been calling me nonstop. I assumed Dad must have confronted her about the affair and the baby she had given up. Her messages were a mixture of apologies and pleas for understanding. She kept saying she was young and afraid back then. But all I could think was, so was I. And no one had saved me. I felt like I was drowning. Mom's health was deteriorating, my father was a mess, and I was barely keeping my head above water. A part of me wanted to disappear, to run away like Mom had all those years ago. But I knew that wasn't the answer. So, I did the only thing I could do. I stepped back. My husband and I took some time off and went away to a secluded cabin in the mountains. No cell service, no internet. Just us, the quiet, and my thoughts. I needed space to figure out what I truly wanted. And in that solitude, I realized something. I wasn't just angry at my mother. I was angry at the world, at the unfairness of it all. And holding on to that anger wasn't helping me, it was consuming me. When we returned, I told my husband my decision. I was going to donate the kidney. He was worried but supportive. We met with the doctors, gathered all the information and started the process. The surgery was hard, the recovery even harder. But for the first time in years I felt at peace. Not because this act had magically fixed everything, far from it, but because I had made the choice for myself. Before we were wheeled into surgery, my mother took my hand, tears streaming down her face as she thanked me over and over. I told her the truth. I wasn't doing this because I had forgiven her, but because I needed to let go of the weight I had carried for so long. She nodded, understanding, though I knew it wasn't what she wanted to hear. We hugged, our first real embrace since she had come back. In many ways it felt like a goodbye. Ezra and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. He has truly apologized, and though it will take time, we're trying. He's beginning to see the sacrifices I made, starting to understand that his version of our childhood wasn't the full picture. Dad has been by my side through it all, navigating his own guilt and regrets. We are closer now than we've been in years, and he tells me often how proud he is of me, not just for donating the kidney but for the person I've become despite everything. And my husband, my rock, has been incredible. Every step of the way he's been there, supporting me, holding me together when I felt like I was falling apart. We are stronger than ever. As for me, I'm still healing. The physical recovery hasn't been easy, but the emotional weight I've carried for so long feels lighter. I'm not naive enough to think everything is perfect now. There are still bad days, still moments of doubt. But I am proud of myself. Not because I did what was expected, but because I made a choice that was true to who I am. To everyone who has followed my journey, thank you. Your words, your understanding, your support, it meant more than you can possibly know. Forgiveness is personal. Healing is not a straight path. But I am finally on my way. Life is full of difficult choices, and sometimes the biggest battles we fight are with the people we love the most. This story teaches us that healing is not a straight path. It's messy, painful, and deeply personal. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. True strength comes from knowing when to let go of anger and when to stand your ground. If you've ever struggled with family conflicts, past wounds, or difficult decisions, remember, you are allowed to put yourself first. Growth comes when we choose peace over resentment, love over hate, and self-care over guilt. Do you resonate with this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can uplift and support each other. Like, share, and subscribe if this story touched your heart and you want to see more inspiring content. Thank you for being part of this journey.